Oh, hello. It's us. Welcome to Roger and Me, a podcast celebrating the late, great Roger Ebert by keeping his unique spirit of film criticism alive every Tuesday through a rewatch of his seminal TV program, and every Friday by me and a guest talking about all the new releases in quick succession with, no time to get into spoilers, no time to get into too many details about the movie, but we want to let you know here are all the movies that are out this weekend, give you the movie menu, and let you choose what you want to see, and give you some guidance on those decisions, let you know what we liked, what we didn't like, and what we think audiences will respond to. I am here with a person I've been reading for, I believe, something like 21 years now. He has an incredible website called markreviewsmovies.com. He's been single-handedly reviewing every movie that comes out, both theatrically and I believe it's a pandemic edition that he started doing streaming stuff, but he's now doing it all. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly because I did not remember to ask before he got here. Mark Dujsik is here.
That was perfect.
Nailed it. This is already my favorite
about
episode
bringing it
ever.
up, and I'm like, no, just in case you do know it.
Yeah, trust the process. I know
Yeah,
it
exactly.
somehow. I've been reading you long enough. I just felt it. I felt like it was right. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
It's an honor to have you, especially because I just, you're one of those people I DM to talk about movies, I'd say pretty regularly because, you and I often see movies around the same time before other people have. So it's fun to have you here, and we could give that public, bring the DMs to the main feed and let everybody see what's going on in there. And all we're doing is talking about the new release movies. And this, a funny time to start a podcast like this because we're in like the middle of summer, right? And you'd think there'd be like so many highly anticipated things to talk about, and there are a few, and that's why we started last week with Jordan Peele's Nope. But the biggest release this week, and kind of the only one in a wide release, I guess, is, I believe it's called it's DC's League of Superpets.
DC League of Superpets, yeah.
DC League of Superpets, a children's movie, an animated movie that is not a part of the Snyderverse, but is part of the DC. I'm assuming it's a Warner Brothers thing then, right?
Yeah, it's a Warner Animation Group production.
Warner Animation Group. WAG. Oh, hey, that's like a dog thing. Okay, I see what they're doing. That's probably how they ended up there. I actually did some Googling to figure out, did they just invent these characters of a bunch of animals that are related to the superheroes? And of course not. Of course, comics have been going on for so long that yes, Superman has a dog named Crypto in some of the comics, and apparently this DC League of Superpets is about that dog. And maybe even some more characters. We're going to hear about DC League of Superpets from Mark, and then we're going to hear about, God, how many are there? 6 other movies?
6 other movies.
6 other movies that, again, it seems like these are not wide releases. Everything else we're talking about are limited releases that are either in New York and LA this week and or on VOD. And there's stuff I hadn't even realized was coming out that Mark put on my radar. We're going to talk about all of it because we are trying to be thorough on this podcast, except for all the streaming stuff because that's too much, and it doesn't count. The Gray Man's not a real movie, okay? No one thinks The Gray Man's a real movie.
That actually did have a theatrical release. So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. In New York, it got the Paris Theater, which is where all the Netflix stuff happens. And I do know I have friends across the country who were like, yeah, I actually ended up seeing it at my local theater.
It was at Marcus Theaters, I think, because AMC said no to. Yeah, the AMC said no to all those weak windows. So,
of course, they won't do it. They still won't do it. All right, but before you get into DC League of Superpets, we are going to watch a little bit of a trailer.
Wake up, buddy! It is walk o'clock.
Maybe I should let him sleep. Okay.
Jump around! Jump up and get down! Jump, 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 jump. Everybody jump.
And I'm up. Okay, we'll go for a walk.
I have an owner, and he's Superman.
Let me just iron that out. They should call me Iron Man.
There it was. We don't need to watch more than 30 seconds of that. DC League of Super Pets. I'm going to go ahead and ask, first off, is this a movie that you would have seen if you were not on the beat of reviewing movies?
Maybe. I mean, I do enjoy animation in general, and I like some superhero stuff, and, you know, Superman's fine, and I'm always looking forward to some new iteration of Superman. Obviously there's not much Superman in this. There's at a certain point there's not much Crypto in it, which is, if speaking just a quick publication history of it, Crypto is a dog from Krypton. In this version, Crypto jumps into the pod as Krypton is about to explode and ends up on Earth with Kal-El, later Clark Kent, later Superman. And they just grow up together on Earth, and Crypto is Superman's dog, and that's the gimmick. And this was a character from the comics. It's kind of funny how many people and things end up on Earth from that destroyed planet that was completely obliterated, including a dog. And at least a dog is a nice addition if you're thinking about it in terms of, like, you know, man's best friend or Krypton's best friend, whatever.
Sure.
But it does just kind of stop becoming about Crypto and Superman, and you have all these other superpowered animals coming into the fold, and I don't know if it quite works out.
So it's not connected to. Is it connected to the current DC movies in any way? Like you said, the planet, like. What's destroyed in the movie? Okay, no. So
I mean, Krypton. I mean, that's just Superman's origin story.
I see.
Like Krypton.
I for some reason.
Marlon
Right.
Brando's putting the baby in the glowy thing, and then
that's
it's
right.
going up. Yeah,
I for some reason was thinking of like the Man of Steel destruction on Earth, which is not what you're talking about.
No. Sorry,
that would have been a pretty dark.
Go
that would
all
have
the
been
way back.
Yeah, that would have been a dark setting for a children's movie. Like post all of this like 9/11 violence. Here's a story of a man and his dog. Wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, by the way.
So I'm assuming, did you see it with like a packed house, or I'm assuming it was a press screening? Were there kids there? Did kids seem to like it? Is there anything for adults in it?
It was mixed press and public, and I don't know. The kids are gonna like it because, you know, lots of jokes, lots and lots of jokes. It is nonstop jokes, and some of them are okay. Kate McKinnon voices a guinea pig, a literal guinea pig and a figurative guinea pig from Lex Luthor's lab, who gets out and discovers an orange variation of kryptonite that turns her superpowered, and then decides to try to take over the world in some vague way. Some of that's funny. It's not a good joke. It is a one joke gag, but it's at least kind of amusing. But then you have all the other animals. Let's see. Kevin Hart does a voice. He's Ace, who's a stray dog, who's in a shelter with the guinea pig. Natasha Lyonne is a tortoise, and she's kind of amusing. They throw in a couple of bleeped swears just because I guess it's Natasha Lyonne, and everyone who knows who Natasha Lyonne is going to expect that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a meta joke. I like that.
I guess so. Vanessa Bayer voices a pig named PB. And Diego Luna is a squirrel, an anxiety-ridden squirrel. They all gain superpowers. Ace becomes invulnerable. The pig can shrink and grow. The tortoise runs fast because you get the joke. She's a tortoise, so it's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. That's good.
And the squirrel gains electrical powers.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Anxiety, electrical powers.
Yeah, it all makes sense.
Parallel there. Okay. DC League of Super Pets. I feel like this is a movie that people thought would open bigger than it just did. I don't think we need to get into box office prognosticating on this podcast, but it opened to like $2 million on Thursday, which I feel like a movie that has a DC branded name on it as well as it's a kids animated thing. There's like the odds are that could have done very well, but for some reason I feel like I don't think there's a lack of awareness, because I know with any lack of awareness for me, they're not targeting me, a 30-year-old.
That's not aimed at you. Yeah,
there's definitely awareness on like Nickelodeon, I'm sure, and like wherever the ads are. But there's something that just feels off about this to me, where like I mean, not that I'm hanging out with a lot of kids, but I don't know any kids who are like freaking out excited about The Rock and Kevin Hart in the Superpets movie. It's just one of those things where it's like it's incongruous to me. Like, it doesn't make sense. They're like, throw all these talented A-listers in this movie to bring people in, and I never understand the draw of like that to an animated movie, because kids don't care.
Yeah, it feels like it feels like the animated. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it feels like the animated equivalent of like how so many mainstream American comedies are right now, where they get a good cast and they count on the cast to make all the jokes and sell all the cheap jokes they have. So you get Dwayne Johnson, you get Kevin Hart, John Krasinski is Superman, Keanu Reeves is Batman, and he's kind of funny in it. The weirdest one is Mark Maron is Lex Luthor.
You get to find out who Superman's guys are.
I guess so.
Yeah,
that was I didn't know it was him until, which is weird because he has such a distinctive voice, but I was not even making to think
you weren't
make that
primed
connection
for Maron to be in a kids movie.
Exactly. So
wasn't he also in the Bad Guys or whatever that animated movie was?
Yes.
That came out this year?
Yeah. That you kind of expect, because that's got Sam Rockwell voicing it. So Mark Maron showing up.
Yeah, it's like a harder
that.
edged kids movie. But this is surprising to hear he's in that. All right. So DC League of Super Pets. What is your like official? What did you write about this movie? What did you say about it? Did you tell people or I guess your reviews aren't like, should you go see it? They're more like how you responded to it.
Yeah, they're more like that. More how I responded to it, talking about it. I gave it 2 stars out of 4, if that means much. It's got it's hit and miss jokes. Some of them are funny and amusing a bit. Most of them just feel cheap and obvious. And the fact that it does become so joke heavy, while also still trying to be sincere about, the relationship between Crypto and Superman and animal rescue stuff, it doesn't quite click. If you want a fun DC themed cartoon movie to go to or watch, Teen Titans Go to the Movies is right there, and that one's really funny and really clever and really smart. Just that one's the one to go to, I think, if you're looking for something alternative.
I have heard that from several people, even telling me, someone who wouldn't normally watch something like that I would enjoy that, and it's very funny. So
it is really funny.
Maybe instead of rolling out and going to see DC League of Super Pets, I will watch Teen Titans Go to the Movies at home. Yes. I will put in the description where you can stream that. But instead of stars on this show, I've had to hastily decide what we're going to do. So I'm going to say Mark.
One thing is trademarked, so we can't do that.
No. Well, that's why I'm kind of riffing on that by saying Mark gives DC League of Super Pets 2 Roger Ebert trademarked thumbs out of 5. 4 out of 4. 5
out of 4. Out of 4.
Damn it.
Can we do half a thumb?
Yeah, we can do half. You can do half a thumb. We can call it like a wrist. I don't know what we're gonna call it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But I mean, you giving movies out of 4-star reviews, that to me is a nod to Roger Ebert, is it not? Or did you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you and I have somewhat similar backgrounds. We both grew up in Chicago suburbs. I'm still here.
Nice. But what suburb, if you don't mind doxing yourself?
I am South Suburbs.
Okay, right on. I would say I'm North Suburbs. What up?
I grew up further South Suburbs, and now I'm like right borderline Chicago.
Right on. So you had a similar experience growing up, reading him in the Sun Times, watching him on TV
every Saturday evening. If I wasn't at a movie,
would you say that he's a big reason why you do what you do?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
I love that. Yeah. I love how that's just baked in. I was of course planning on asking you this, but I forgot. So I'm glad it came up.
Yeah, I mean, it's you grow up in Chicago, anywhere near it, and Gene and Roger were like it was, if you liked movies and you grew up there, it was appointment television viewing every Saturday night. And yeah, my dad would bring home both the Tribune and the Sun-Times on Friday, and he was the Sun-Times guy, but he would make sure to bring home the Tribune too, only on Fridays, and that way I'd be able to, you know, read everything
That
when he
would
got back
be
home.
Michael Phillips mostly.
Gene and Michael Phillips.
Gene and that, of course.
No,
yeah.
it was at the time it was Michael Wilmington. The late he recently passed.
Oh no, okay.
But yeah, the great Michael Wilmington was also.
I'm showing my
did some
young
stuff.
age here when I
Oh,
the
no.
Tribune for me.
Oh no, that's right.
That's
Yeah,
I
I grew
think
up.
it
I was a
Michael
'90s
Phillips.
kid.
Yeah, '90s kid. I'm
Yeah.
I'm 30. So yeah, I definitely had the same reaction, or the same thing at my house though. We had both papers. The next movie on our menu today is one that I saw at Sundance several months ago and loved so much that I've been eager to watch it, and I am so delighted it's finally out for everybody to see. It's called Resurrection. It's an indie film from IFC that is now in limited release. It stars Rebecca Hall, and it is super messed up. And we will be watching a trailer for it right about, let's see.
I did
now.
something bad. Unforgivable. There was this man, and he was handsome, charismatic, and he noticed me. But I guess I wasn't as tough as we thought. What happened? Nothing. I just feel a bit off.
I have been recommending this movie to people with a big asterisk, though, because it's a movie that I feel like is not for, it's not a movie for general audiences. It's a movie for a specialty crowd, I would say. But it is fully my cup of tea. And I'm excited to hear what Mark says about it and have an actual conversation that's not me just probing you on a movie that I haven't seen, because this is my podcast. And I don't have to review children's movies if I don't want to. Nobody's forcing me.
Nobody is. No. But you could. I'm just going to throw it out there. You could.
Unfortunately, yes, I probably will end up doing a lot of them.
You will.
But this week there's so many riches in this assortment of movies that probably aren't playing near most people, but that you can find on VOD either now or soon. So Resurrection, you just watched it for the first time this week? Was a screener you got?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I watched it. Wait, was it this week or last week? I watched it recently, within a week or so.
What did you think?
I liked it, and it is weird and messed up and disturbing, and I was not expecting. I didn't know anything about it except that I had Rebecca Hall, and that was about it. So when it starts off with just this portrait of this woman trying to keep control over everything in her life and about herself, and something collapses, I mean, I don't want to give almost anything away, because there's so many surprises here. But I think
I also think you can't really spoil it unless you flat out, of course, say the crazy things that happen. But by just describing the movie, it's just, it's very theme oriented, less than plot oriented. But it's really just about a woman who you learn was in this abusive relationship in the past, and what happens when that ugly past rears its head. But I would say, after watching it now a couple times, what became strikingly obvious to me, it's there the first time too, but the second time watching it, it's really a movie about the anxieties of becoming a parent, and when someone who, craves that control over every element of their life, how that clashes with having a child, and how, it's the horrors of being a parent, just truly thinking every second of your life you're thinking of another person now. You kind of cease to exist. There's a line in the movie that says something akin to that, where you're when you become a mom, you stop becoming a person, and you are this protector of this other person. And I thought, that's my wife and I are talking about having kids and stuff, so this is a movie that hit me in a deep place, and it's not only about the parental anxiety, it's also about the being in an abusive relationship, which we'll talk about later when we talk about a shark movie for some reason.
That happened. That happened this week too.
That did happen this week. And apparently, from what I read online, there's another recent shark movie that does that too. And this is like, people are like, this ripped off the theme of that movie. And I'm like, how are there two shark movies about females, like female trauma and like domestic abuse? Anyway, Resurrection is about those type of things too. And it's about them in a way that is so fucking compelling. That is, I think, because it's anchored by two incredible performances, three, even if you count the daughter, who I thought was very good. But Rebecca Hall, Tim Roth, it's like a two-hander between them. He's her gaslighting ex, and at first you don't even know if he's really like around. And it's like the movie is very elusive with like, is this all in her head? Is it not? But that sounds so rote. But the way the movie does it, I would argue, is not, because it's like very formal. It's like a very formal movie up top. Like it's very structured and composed. And then as like the movie goes on and it becomes more like a horror movie, and before fully becoming a horror movie by the end, the movie gets more and more crazy and it looks less formal, and like the style matches the tone. I just thought it was a masterfully done movie. And I'm also kind of struggling to talk about it without giving away all the juice.
Yeah. There's one detail that I had to write around entirely, and I don't want to even bring it up here.
I'm sure it's like the subject of the monologue, right?
Yes, it is the subject of the monologue, which is an amazing piece of acting. And the filmmaker is Andrew Semans. Yeah, and he does that in a one take. That just this close up one take of Rebecca Hall, who goes through this entire process of just very straightforwardly telling this story and keeping everything calm and collected, and the way that it just that mask just subtly cracks as she's going through it, not to the point where she's broken down by the end, but you can see it, and the nuance of those shifts is what makes the performance so great. And Tim Roth is fantastic too, kind of in a slightly different way, where he's also entirely about control, but he is so calm and cool and collected, and he is just frightening in this.
Yeah, he's so scary, and like not in the way that like Tim Roth was scary in like in the 90s. It's like a new kind of like, as I mentioned earlier, the gaslighting is a word that's going to come up if you talk about this movie a lot, because he's like so conniving, like telling her things to her face that can't be true. And he says them with such conviction and casualness that she believes them, or like you can see she like the cogs are turning in her brain, and she like doesn't want to believe them, but like you can tell it affects her.
Yeah, and she knows it's absurd, but and you can see it. Yeah, you see it on her face. Like, no, this I get it now. This couldn't have happened. Yes. But he's so convincing that, and the history they have.
Yeah, so the two performances are definitely what anchors this and makes it like really special. But of course, it's like those are like heavy themes to incorporate into a movie, and I love the way that the movie incorporates them in terms of, again, I'm trying not to spoil it, but like things become like literal that you would never think would in a movie like this. And it's so wonderful to see. Again, I don't think I could spoil it for you, because it's like you still would, I could explain to you even more detailed of what it kind of is, and you would never get it because it's so fucked up and weird.
There's a moment where I remember vividly the moment where the climactic scene's happening, and just like maybe like a minute before it happens, it clicked in my head like, oh no, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it goes.
And the fact that they carry through on it. Sorry, the fact they carry through on it. That's what sells it, I think.
I know, and like it's a movie that really puts to the test the idea of like a mom doing anything for her children to protect her children, and the idea that I was really struck by on a repeat viewing was the parallels between the control that David, Tim Roth's character, exerts over her, and how she's basically doing that to her daughter too, and like the movie equating her helicopter parenting just as toxic as like what he's doing. And I thought that was really interesting dynamic to think about the second time.
It's just the absurdity of trying to have any kind of control over anything in your life or somebody else's life. That's kind of where it gets to eventually.
Yeah.
So having this imagery that's brought up through the whole movie as kind of a symbol, or you think it's some sort of abuse or something, and just to, like I said, to follow through on it to the, as nuts as it is, the logical point.
Yeah.
That's what makes it hit so hard. Is like, yeah, this is what control does to other people and to yourself.
Yeah, and I believe I saw in the interview with the writer-director that he said it started with him thinking about, he wanted to make a movie. He knew someone that was in an abusive relationship, and he thought that was like a good jumping off point for a movie, because he's like, when you're in one of those things, like nothing makes sense and it's so complicated. And from the outside, it's so easy for everyone to be like, I can't believe she was with that guy. Like, how could she ever have stayed in that horrible situation? And this movie kind of probes that idea to be like, you don't know what's going on there. Like, it could be something truly heinous, and everyone's got their own stuff. Yeah, I thought it was really brilliant. And I know it's a movie that's definitely splitting the room. My podcast co-host on The New Flesh, podcast about horror movies and all things tangentially related to horror and the horror lifestyle, we reviewed it on the Patreon months ago at Sundance, and it was the most lively argument we've ever had, because Jesse Hassinger, who actually wrote a great review of it for his website, sportsalcohol.com, he hated it and like can't believe that anyone likes it and thinks it's so half-baked and things like that. And I just love that a movie could have that reaction, that a movie is splitting the room that much. So I say that only to say, you've been warned. It's a movie that not everyone agrees on, even though Mark and I seem to agree. Mark gave it 3 Roger Ebert trademark thumbs out of 4. And I am giving it, I'll keep it out of 4. If it's out of 4, I'm giving it 4 out of 4. I'm giving it 4 Roger Ebert trademarked copywritten thumbs out of 4. All right, let's jump to the next movie. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one. Talk about splitting the room. We've got a movie from I don't know what to call him. I don't want to say legendary. I want to say first time writer director BJ Novak of The Office.
The 2 of us are going to avenge her death.
So as like a personal boundary, I don't avenge deaths. But here's what I can do. I'm going to record everything that you think happened to Abilene. And we'll put it on a podcast, and we'll see where it leads.
What evidence does he have that it was a murder?
Nothing. And that's the story.
What's this podcast about?
A new American reality where people invent these conspiracies.
You got deep state, pill pushers, cartels, the law.
Because the truth is too hard to accept.
Writer, director debut, BJ Novak of The Office fame. Don't know what else. I think he's an author. He's done a lot of pieces in newspapers and stuff. He's a satirist. I would say he would consider himself a satirist. And
that sounds accurate, possibly.
Yeah, like I say that almost in jest, because he's like one of those like I went to Harvard comedians who refuses to acknowledge the leg up that people who went to Harvard have in comedy and acts like it's a detriment. But maybe we're finding out my personal problems with BJ are blending into my review of this movie. Also, the movie's coming after me, a lowly New York podcaster who, doesn't understand the world around him because he's in his little coastal elite bubble. So maybe it's too personal for me to rate effectively. But I will let Mark start with his take on the movie, which I know he liked. And just what did you think? And I guess you're supposed to tell what it's about too.
Yeah. BJ Novak wrote, directed, and he stars as Ben, who is a writer in New York, who is really desperate to get his voice out there, which is funny because he's a writer, but he really wants to have a podcast that makes it big, like something on This American Life or something like that.
Yeah, there's a fake This American Life clone that is even referenced on the show. I
can't remember what it's called specifically, but
very similar to This American Life, like American podcast life.
Yeah, something like that. So he's in New York and he's partying and having fun and sleeping around and everything seems good. And then he gets a random phone call from the brother of a woman that he had hooked up with a couple times, who tells Novak's character that the woman's dead, and he would like him to come down to Texas for her funeral because he's under the assumption that they were in a committed relationship. And he's kind of guilted into it, goes down to Texas and discovers that the story of this woman's death and the brothers and the rest of the family's belief that she was murdered would be perfect for a podcast. They make a big point about the fact that it's, a dead white woman. And so it's
the podcast is
perfect
titled Dead White Girl. Like,
yeah,
I understand that the movie is poking fun at this world. And like, again, I would say it's done a disservice by like Only Murders in the Building beating it to the punch. I don't know if you watched that TV show on Hulu.
I saw the first season. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that, it's kind of after the same type of satire of that type of thing where it's like, isn't it gross how we all just like want to know about all these murders and horrible salacious details? Like, I appreciate that it's trying to say something about that, but I just thought the movie and BJ himself, like, it just read as so solipsistic to me, where it's like the only way I can understand people is to throw myself in and make myself the star. And yes, I know any criticism of that is just going to say, well, the movie acknowledges that, right? Like Ben's character is acknowledged as a piece of shit. Like, I think one of the fake working titles for this podcast is like Douchebag Goes West is written on a board. Like, he's definitely the butt of a joke, but there's something just rubs me the wrong way about the whole endeavor. Like the way first of all, it starts with BJ Novak and John Mayer. Yes, that John Mayer, like at a party, like not paying attention to each other, talking and scrolling through Tinder and finding women and talking about their useless conquests, and they're not even listening to each other. They're just scrolling through their phones and going, "Oh, 100%, dude, 100%." And like, again, I appreciate. Like, I'm like, I want to like this satire of modern times because like, it's kind of like, yes, people do act like that. But I don't understand. It just seems like he's not really saying anything. He's just kind of pointing out shit that everybody already knows. Like, the movie's about, he goes to Texas and learns that these rednecks, aren't the rednecks that you think they might be. And he learns all these lessons through the geist of this podcast. And like, I'm putting aside a lot of the plot contrivances that come out in the third act that I thought was completely ludicrous. And it's just very convenient. But the whole endeavor rang false to me, and just like I never connected to it. I would like so from your perspective as somebody who enjoyed the film, those that read, you were also getting those things. You were getting like the opposite of my read, which I'm assuming.
No, I was getting the same read. I think you're right. It is an obvious joke. Fish out of water, stranger in a strange place. He goes down to a place he assumes everybody's going to be dumb, and he learns they're not. In fact, they're smarter than him in some ways. That's an obvious joke. But what I like about it is this huge. I think there are some really strong characters in here. I think Novak's character, he's playing a stereotype of New Yorker bro who doesn't know much of anything but thinks he knows everything. And all of the Texas characters, the entire family is, they're some of them are fame seekers. There are two sisters who are fame seekers. The brother is this conspiracy theorist. But I do think it cuts through all of that and gives you this sense of them as lost and lonely people. And that's what they share together. Not that they don't know each other, not that they're judging each other, just that separately in their different places in the world and their different experiences, all of them feel lost and without any sense of purpose and not knowing what they want to do. And that comes through to me on a level that I maybe, if you're looking at the broad stereotypes of all the characters, and they are broad stereotypes, but I do think that it cuts to it. And we haven't brought up Ashton Kutcher. Did you like Ashton Kutcher?
I did. I thought he was quite good in the movie, in the most interesting role in the movie, even if I don't think it resolves completely interestingly.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I'm just going to say Ashton Kutcher has two scenes. I love the first one. Second one, I'm iffy on.
The
That's all
second
I'll
one
say.
is like where the writing contrivances come into
Yeah.
play. And
Yep.
the first one's really good, where it's kind of like a perfect encapsulation of what the message of his movie, which is like, don't judge a book by a cover type of shit, where it's like this guy in a 10-gallon hat who lives in Texas, you probably think you know about him, but he actually ends up being, as you like, he's like the smartest guy in the room, and he's really compelling and an interesting figure. And he's
a record producer, and that scene of him telling that story about the voice and the cosmos and that Big Bang, I love that, just the imagery of that. I mean, Novak is, he's a solid writer. That speech is really good, and Kutcher sells it entirely.
There's a couple lines even in the contrived ending that I wrote down. I was like, damn, that's a good fucking line. I think it's in my notes here. It's something Ashton says. Ashton's talking about how we all just post on social media now and stuff. And he's like, we're all just inspirations for the record of ourselves. And I'm like, oh man, that's deep. But like, I don't know. It vacillates between like these big ideas and just like, for me, like silly plot contrivances that I mentioned. And then like the condescension, just that condescending tone that his character, again, you can put your character in a movie and say, oh yeah, he's condescending, but that's the point of his character. It doesn't mean I enjoy watching him, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, but I do think he goes through a major change.
Yes.
And I think that's I think part of the joke, I think Novak is aware of it, is that you say it has all these big ideas and it doesn't know what to do with them. And I think that's the entire point, is that there are these big ideas about what America is, who the people of America are, why everybody's so divided. But when it comes down after going through this murder mystery, this potential murder mystery, or just an accidental death, trying to investigate it, when it comes down to it, there is one truth and one truth only for this character at the end. All of those big ideas don't mean anything. It's just one thing. And I really like that. And I felt that arc and where it comes to. I think that's a strong.
I guess I definitely like the implications of a lot of the movie more than I like it, I guess, because the idea of all the bureaucracy problems in solving the murder, like different agencies and departments not helping each other, and because it's in 4 overlapping jurisdictions or whatever, like all that stuff, like the commentary on that was good. And like the idea, he even has that, there's this really this monologue, I would say, that starts like the third act, where he yells at the family in a way that just felt totally would never happen to me. But in that speech, he gets at something interesting, and he's like, why do people choose to believe conspiracies and myths? Like, it's easier to deal with than the truth. Like, that's what the whole movie's about. And I think you're right.
But cutting through all that crap, that's through all that
crap. Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess I don't know what my hang up is with this movie, because I can't argue with anything you're saying. It has these I do think there are very compelling ideas in it. I think it's like a shoot the messenger thing. Like, I just don't appreciate BJ being this figure.
I know a couple. I'm trying to think who else. Somebody else I talked to about it. They're not a fan of Novak's persona on screen. And it's
just like the faux profundity, and like it's the idea that I think even in an interview, like he kind of crassly said, like, this is a movie that I decided to make while scrolling through my phone on Tinder, and like being like, who are these people? And it's like, that is like what makes me groan, and being like, ugh. But if you are judging the movie on the merits, as we're supposed to be doing here, there are compelling elements to it. I don't completely like 1-star hate it. I would give it out of the 4, I would probably give it, I guess I would give it 2 Roger Ebert copywritten thumbs, trademarked out of 4.
And I'm not all over the moon about it. I'm 3 trademark Roger Ebert thumbs on it. So
thank
3
you
out of 4. It's like, I mean, it's good. It does, I don't know how convincing the resolution to everything is in terms of plot and all that, but I think in terms of the ideas, just cutting through all that crap and getting to it, I did enjoy that. And I think Novak might be smart enough to know he's not smart enough. if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
I think
Because
so.
it's
I think that's all lost because of all the lofty ideas presented in the movie, and like we all want to be like, yeah, fuck BJ Novak. What does this movie say about America? Like we all just graft onto that, even though like the movie's making fun of that idea, but
Yeah.
it's also presenting that idea, and therefore we're like rejecting it. There's something weird about it. I think it's interesting. I don't particularly like it. Novak said that he put all the things he hates about himself into this character and like the themes of the movie. And I think that's interesting, but I also think that's where the like narcissistic, solipsistic shit comes into me, where another interview I read, he was like, people these days, they're all on these dating apps and everyone's communicating with everybody. Like, it's not just me. And like, the lesson is, I guess it's a funny version of the lesson that the more personal you think you're being, the more universal you are. But then I'm like, that's not me. Like, I don't relate to that at all. Anyway, if you relate to having too many women in your phone on Tinder, maybe it's vengeance. Maybe that's why Mark got it.
No, that's very. I'm happily married.
Me too.
No, I think if you could just kind of look at it as not more a satire, but also kind of a satire of the fact that it is sort of a satire.
Yeah,
by the end it's so weird because it really does just toss out everything in a way that is satisfying
at the end.
In a way, I think is satisfying in terms of the theme of just getting to that core idea of the title. But that's how I reacted to it. So
right on. Well, there you go. Vengeance. It's actually playing all over New York City.
It's basically a wide release. So
there you go. Good for BJ. It's produced by Jason Blum for some reason. It's a Blumhouse movie. It doesn't fit their slate, but we'll take it. What did I tell you was next? Let's see.
The Reef.
All right.
Is that right?
The Reef 2 Stalked, a movie I did not know was coming out until Mark told me. So I got a screener, watched it. Not only that, I actually watched the original as well because I hadn't seen it. So I watched The Reef. We'll talk a little bit about The Reef when we're talking about The Reef 2. Here's the trailer.
3 days of paddling.
What could possibly go wrong?
I thought I heard something. Maybe it's the man in the grey suit. What? That's what surfers call sharks. They're pretty timid usually. It's the big ones you have to worry about. Oh my God!
That thing is stalking us. It's hunting us, and it's not going to stop.
We have to get to the island.
That's enough of that. You get the gist. The trailer should just be this is my trailer for the Reef movies. No! Get out of the water! No! Sorry. Maybe I'll cut that out. That's more for my other podcast, all the silly shit. This is more of a serious show. I don't make fun of the the accents of the Australian people. Hilarious title once you factor in what they're going for. I thought that was pretty funny to be like, that's even the title can be read in this way. Anyway, the Reef original flavor, the Reef 1, the Reef OG came out in 2010. It's quite old. It's 12 years old. It was based on a true story, and that's all the movie was. It hewed very closely. It's just like a group of people go out on the water, their boat capsizes for whatever reason in a reef, and they are stalked and hunted and killed by a shark, except for one of them who survives. And that's the whole movie. And I would argue it's good. Perfect. 3 out of 5. I guess that would be what translates to like 2.5 out of 4.
The math is
The math is always off on those. We got to take some liberties. But it's a perfectly okay. I would actually bump it up to a 3 out of 4, I think, just to say it's like a totally fine Australian take on the movie. If you ever saw Open Water, where it's just like it's a shark attack movie, but it's more about what they don't show you. And like, yes, Jaws is also like what they don't show you. That's like the whole reason why it works. But it's more minimalist than that. It's more like, isn't it scary to be in this situation? And like, you definitely see way less of the shark than you would in something like Jaws. And that's what The Reef is about. And I would say The Reef 2, obviously not very dissimilar, But the difference is it's completely unencumbered from its true story frame this time, right? This one is not a true story. It's just another movie where people get attacked by a shark. And in doing so, I would say the director-writer takes a big swing that I think we're going to argue pays off. I think we're going to differ on how we agree if that works. But he does a big swing, a big thematic swing to like start things off, and that threads the needle throughout the whole thing. And it's basically 3 women. I think it's 4 women. 4 women go out. Yeah, 4. I was gonna say 3 shortly after that.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
4 women go out in the water for some like diving or whatever they do. And it's like the anniversary of the death of one of their friends, one of the main character's sister. And like that kind of informs why they're there. It's like, this is something she always wanted to do, so we should go do it. So there's like, they're giving you some pathos there. But the big thing that the movie keeps coming back to, and I don't think it's a spoiler. I don't know if it's a spoiler.
Oh no, it's not a spoiler. It's
Okay.
the first 5 minutes of the movie is all
okay.
the
So
setup for that.
Yeah, so basically this woman, the character in the movie that we follow, her sister is killed in a domestic violence situation in the opening scenes. And then that, I would say, I like the idea behind, okay, this woman has, it's a movie calling attention to the domestic violence of women and trauma that women face. And it's kind of equating that to like the shark is kind of subbing in for domestic violence or like abusive men at large. And you can kind of read the movie as there are these women trying to escape the bad man, and it's tough. And if they want to do that, they have to help each other and stuff. Like it's this pretty broad metaphor and allegory that I think if they were to just leave it alone and not fucking every time there's a shark attack, they inject the face of the man and like him choking out the woman. And it's like every time they did that, I honestly laughed because I'm like, oh my God, they're really just like, talk about a movie having subtext versus text, right? It's just like,
Yeah.
If like any subtext you thought the movie was getting at with that, it's like rubbing it in your face. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this is what the movie's about. This is what I'm getting at. Do you understand? And that happens throughout the whole movie. Every time there's a shark attack, it cuts to that face of that guy.
And it's more than that. It's also because she found her sister drowned in a bathtub, and so
That's
every
right.
time she sees the water, almost maybe every other time she sees the water, she has these flashes of her sister drowning in the tub, and it's
a lot.
It's a lot, and it's a shark movie, and I don't. It doesn't
So you're
work.
saying they
it didn't work
overstepped
for me at all.
They overstepped. Yeah,
They
I think
really
I was a little
overstepped.
kind in my initial review. I think I'll probably bump it down, realizing I'm talking about it that it's definitely less effective than the first one. And even though I really appreciate the blunt metaphor that parallels women trying to survive a shark attack, with one highlighting the abuse and murder of women at the hands of men. But again, it's the way that they went about it. Like it really just like shoves it in your face to a degree that I could not believe.
It starts off with that scene of her discovering the sister, and sure, go ahead and make that story about living with that experience of suspecting something is off but not doing anything about it, of feeling guilty about it, of experiencing the trauma of imagining that this could be anybody, that any guy out there could be that, but don't turn it into a shark. I mean, come on.
Don't you understand and prize theme in film?
Of course I do. Of course I do. But come on, man, it's a shark, and the problem with it is that it's just a cliched shark movie.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
That's the reaction I expect 90% of people to have to this movie. Is I cannot believe they're trying to pull this shit off. Whereas I was like, they tried to pull that shit off. That's kind of fun. But yeah, it's pretty not. It's not. I would say the most compelling things about it are when it's those moments that are actually tense, right? And I think it's true of the first movie too. Are those moments where the shark isn't around and you think it might be, and it's just like the shots of the open water, right?
The shots of the open water that something's gonna pop out of it, or
Yeah.
it's held so long that you know that nothing's gonna pop out of it. It's
Yeah.
I think the soundtrack is cheap. I mean, you know
it's very
that
cheap. Yeah.
they start those creepy music stings and just atmosphere and ambient music well before we know a shark is around, and it's like
a cue to you, the audience, to react.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're cueing us to, you already know this is a shark movie, so why don't you get scared of the water even before we've established the fact that there's a shark? It's not, it doesn't work. I don't think the shark footage, and as far as I know, they recorded actual shark footage and just incorporated it into the film, which is something they did in the first one. And there's less of the shark in the first movie, but it works so much better in the first movie because there isn't much of the shark. But the way that footage is edited into the stuff that they've shot with the actors is really effective. Here, it feels like the shark is different sizes almost every time it's on screen.
Yeah. There's a couple times it jumps out that it's just like, yeah, well, you should stick with keeping it with the real shark footage because that doesn't really work at all because this movie is really cheap.
I think twice the shark hits a boat and the people fly like 10 feet. Just so that they're far away enough that there's a tense scene of them trying to swim back.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it's all pretty repetitive stuff, especially if you watch them both back to back like I did. But
and then trying to turn it into this.
Did you rewatch
experience.
Did you see
I watched it
12 years ago, or did you just watch it?
I did not see it 12 years ago, but I did watch it.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm a little less big on it than you are, but it's much better.
Yeah,
it's much better than this one. And yeah, that one has this sense of helplessness and hopelessness and claustrophobia in this big open space, and you don't know where the shark is going to be. And there's some actual legitimate suspense in the first one. This one, I just like no.
Yeah, and like the one thing that made me laugh thinking about is like how Jaws 4, The Revenge, like the tagline and the joke of that movie was, you know, it's not a joke, it was serious, but it's become a joke, is this time it's personal. And how like the shark was attacking Brody's family or whatever. It's very silly. But I mean, that's what this movie is. This time it's personal, and it's truly too personal, and they go too far with their big swing. But I'm still going to go ahead and give it 2.5 out of 4 and say that 2.5 Roger Ebert trademarked thumbs out of 4, and say if you're a shark movie completist only, check it out. If you want more from your shark movies, check out I really like 47 Meters Down as well as 47 Meters Down Uncaged. I think those are both solid cheapo shark movies. Mark might not agree. I don't know.
No, I'm not. I think I'm trying to remember. One of them I think is better than the other, and I actually think it might be Uncaged. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I remember liking both. I know Mandy Moore is in the first one, and she's not in the second one. I don't remember who's in the second one. It's like Dylan McDermott or something. Somebody weird is in the second
or Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah, maybe it's
one of those two guys.
Yes, absolutely one of those two.
For the Reef view on what is it? Oh, Stalked.
Again, that title really hammers home the point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're being stalked like evil man would do.
I would give it 1.5 trademark Roger thumbs. And I would say if you want more from your shark movies, or in this case, a little bit less import from your shark movies also, go elsewhere, because this one just, that central metaphor just does not work.
I'm going to do an off the beaten path recommendation and tell people to check out Steven Spielberg's Jaws.
It's a little indie movie.
Yeah, check it out. I think you'll like
one of his early ones.
Yes. All right, next movie, another one I had no idea was coming out, and based on my research, it kind of is and is not coming out this weekend. It's got like one showtime in New York on Saturday night at the Alamo Drafthouse. It is Hypochondriac, a movie that I know played South by Southwest, and I'm not sure where else. But here's a little trailer for Hypochondriac.
When I was 12, my mom tried to kill me, and that's when we found out that she was sick. I need to know if it isn't real. If I'm finally following in her footsteps, I'm gonna kill myself. Hello?
Will.
No, that was not Frank the Bunny from Donnie Darko that you saw and heard there. That was a apparently original creation of Hypochondriac. I didn't love this movie. I would like to know. You can start. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to lead with my negative bullshit. I didn't hate it,
Okay.
but it's just okay for me.
Okay, so yeah, so Hypochondriac is from the clip you had there is about a young man whose mother tried to murder him. She suffers from bipolar disorder. Tried to murder him when he was a kid. He seems to have gotten his life in order, but then he starts receiving calls from his mother, who may or may not still be alive, and then begins to start believing that he is experiencing the same symptoms that his mother was. And then his life starts to fall apart. He's in a relationship with a really nice guy, starts to push him away. His job, he loves his job, but he starts seeing hallucinations that get him injured on the job. And also just eventually he loses that. It is presented, as you could tell, as a horror movie. With some creepy imagery, and yeah, the wolf looks a lot like the bunny from Donnie Darko, the guy, and I don't know if that's intentional or if it's just,
to me it reads as very intentional. Like it's too close. It's not just the voice, but the the costume, especially towards the end, once it becomes like less crazy faced or whatever. It really just, I'm like, oh, it's just, this is like Frank the Bunny cosplay, and like that's okay. Movies can be inspired by other things. It just hit me weird in like 2022 you're doing like a Frank the Bunny thing. But go on, please.
So it has all of those elements, but I think it uses them, and I'm always iffy about these movies that try to use horror cliches and tropes and setups in terms of representing mental illness. But I think this one actually does create an atmosphere that is certainty. So you know that something is wrong, but you don't know what that thing is. And I think that cuts through the horror cliches and all of those creepy things. And it just puts you in this mindset of not being 100% certain what's going on. And I think in doing that, it gives the film this level of empathy between the lines of all of those creepy scenes and all of those other scenes. There are a couple of really affecting scenes. There's one I think might be a cheat. It might not be a cheat because again, we're not certain, but he has that relationship and it goes south. But there's this really nice moment where you think it might be coming back, but it might also not be coming back. And I think it gets to the heart of just feeling isolated and alone and not knowing what's going on inside yourself and in the world in general. And I think in doing that, it creates this level of understanding that some of those other movies that try to tie mental illness to horror don't always do. This is was a debut from Addison Heimann, and it announces at the beginning it's based on a true breakdown. I don't know what that means.
Feels personal.
It feels personal, either through the filmmaker or somebody that the filmmaker knows. But there is this, I think, a feeling of authenticity to it that carries through. So that's where I'm at on it.
I think it had things I did appreciate. Like, I know a lot of people are calling it like a queer horror movie, and like, yeah, yes, it is. I'm not arguing that it isn't, but I appreciate that, like, those elements, like, it's just like a movie that happens to have a queer character to me, not like a movie that's about queerness, or like maybe that's a misread and some people can tell me so. That's fine. But to me, the movie, Frank the Bunny here is like a manifestation of childhood trauma, right? And that's a compelling thing to have, like, be the specter chasing you. But it just, something about this was totally off to me. There was like that bizarre allusion to Ghost. Was that like, did you read that as like a joke? Or was that supposed to be funny?
I think it was.
I'm curious. I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm just.
I think it was.
wondering.
No. I did forget about that. I think it's intentionally a gag.
Yeah.
But just Yeah, I don't. Okay, that is a weird moment. Now I
It's
think
a
about it.
weird moment. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's a clay pottery moment in this movie
That's
that
right.
Hart definitely is referencing Ghost. So I think that's maybe just a tongue-in-cheek moment that like took me out of the movie or something.
Yeah,
Didn't really
that could
work
be it.
for me. But
Yeah.
I just would say there's not that much meat on this bone for me. It's too similar to every other movie I've seen about trauma resurfacing and like reality giving way to hallucination or something. And I think it's funny that we've talked about Resurrection, which is about trauma.
Yeah.
We talked about The
As
Reef,
a horror movie.
which is about trauma for some reason.
As a shark horror movie.
And Hypochondriac. It's all it's a very traumatic episode here.
And your first official like long one too, with
I know.
multiple movies, and they're all about trauma.
I mean, that
And,
says something about where we are as a society, right? We're all
It
fucked
does.
up. We're all fucked up. I mean, that's interesting to me, though. I do one of the reasons I want to do this is to like when you start talking about them in this, way where you're like it's like every week you're doing it like mechanically. I feel like you start to learn trends like that, and you just see like every movie nowadays is about trauma. Or for like last year, I guess I don't know, was it this year? Turning Red, and there's all these movies like Uma, all these movies about like mothers and children, like mothers not enjoying their daughters. That was like a trend for a while. Anyway, how many more do we got? 2. We got 2 more.
We got 2. Oh,
2
so where are you
more.
at? Not star, thumb wise, where are you at with Hypochondriac?
Ooh, thank you for getting me there. I would give it 2 Roger Ebert trademark thumbs out of 4. I didn't hate it. I kept waiting for it to have like a there or do something more than it was already doing, and it never got there for me. But like it does have some compelling like visuals and like freak out moments. But like to me, it's just like it's like a thing I would see at a festival and forget about.
Yeah,
later.
I give
later
it
that
3 trademark thumbs, and I think the atmosphere I think carries it through, and it does feel authentic. And
do you know if that's playing in Chicago even, or
I don't know. It's I just had it limited release today, and it's digital on August 4th. But
August 4th, okay.
It's somewhere. But...
Somewhere, if you can find it. Mark says see it. I say, it's okay. All right. The next movie is one that I skipped at Sundance, but I watched it now, and I felt like I was right back at Sundance. And you'll take that with however you want.
So, just getting away from things, or what?
Well, I'm meeting someone here. Supposed to be.
And who is this someone?
I don't know, really. I mean, I knew him as a kid. Not even sure what he looks like anymore.
All right. I'm kind of annoyed I used the phrase not enough meat on that bone for the last movie because I do think it fits this one too. All right. I will say up top, Dale Dickey, very good performance in this movie. I enjoyed seeing, someone relegated to supporting roles and character actor performances in a leading role. Same goes for Wes Studi in that I'm happy to see him in a leading role, but I don't know if he like gave a performance that you'd want from Wes Studi to give in a leading role. I thought Dale Dickey was noticeably good, and I thought he was noticeably like just okay. I think it's the material and not his performance. But this is a very simple movie. It's just 2 people, 2 widowed people, 2 people with some sort of relationship in the past that we don't really know a lot about. It's about them like reconnecting, but also it's about like the anticipation of that reconnection and the fallout of that reconnection. And even though the movie's only 80 minutes and it's so sparse, I'm torn between like a 2.5 and a 3 Roger Ebert thumb on this one. I didn't hate it, but it just, again, I just was waiting for something more than it ended up being, which is like a contemplative, nice little movie that's, I guess, sweet, but I didn't feel like we spent enough time with these characters to get much. Like, yes, she's a widow. I understand. She sleeps with this empty space next to her in bed, but all that stuff felt like signifiers I've seen before, and I appreciated, again, seeing these supporting performers like let loose in a cool way. But I don't know. The movie wants and gets a lot out of Dale Dickey's close-ups of her face. And like, I just don't know if that's, to me, like that's enough for a movie. But I keep reading reviews. I think yours too, Bilga's as well. Bilga Abiri, friend of the show, where everyone's like, heartbreaking close-ups of Dale Dickey that just like wrecked people. And I'm just like, she's just the lady with a face. It almost feels mean to me. It almost feels mean. Everyone's like, leave this woman and her face alone. She's like her pain, the pain in her face. You see it. I'm like, she fucking is right there. You can't just say that to her. I'm just mostly kidding. But that is kind of, I don't know what to make of this movie. Like, I would never recommend it to like my parents. They would find it too slow. I think general audiences would mostly find it too slow. But it's like it's a little indie movie. Again, another one that I would see at a festival and not think much of. Sorry, I was rambling a lot.
That's okay. I mean, you're right. And Dale Dickey's face does convey a lot.
It does. But is it rude to say?
Is it enough? Oh, you know what? Oh, okay. Well, if we're talking on that level,
two different conversations. Yeah,
that is two. Yeah, those are two different conversations, and I was trying to avoid like making any sort of statement about like
you were
that.
not. I am fully extrapolating from that.
Oh,
you didn't say
but I
like
get
that.
it because there is a. But I mean, as an actor, typically actors know what they are conveying and what they look like and what that look looks like, and the filmmakers can do that too, and they do. And I think that all of that, the way that she looks in this film, is completely intentional.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
the point, because otherwise we wouldn't have that many close-ups.
Yeah,
there
like
would be
a very weathered face. Like again, it's a
face
so
that has lived, and
it.
it's great. It's great. No, we don't get to see that. We don't get to see faces that have lived in movies.
This should have been. This is what Nomadland should have been. Like a real person, not like a Frances McDormand.
Oh,
not to put her down. Yeah.
I mean, I love Nomadland though.
Yeah.
I think Frances McDormand has. But yeah, I mean, if Dale Dickey had been in Nomadland, it would have been.
It would have worked the same.
It would have worked the same. The thing that I'm going really a tangent on Nomadland.
Please.
I believe Frances McDormand would live like that just for the hell of it.
It does ring true. Like it's good casting. Definitely.
Whereas Dale Dickey, I mean, the same deal. I mean, it feels like she's just there at this campsite, and then all these people. And you talk about this reconnection, but a lot of the movie is her alone, and all these visitors keep coming in, and there's this nice little comedic undertone to those connections where you have like this family of 4 or 5 brothers who are all adults, and then there's this little kid, and they're there to dig up their dad's grave because he really wanted to see the lake when he was dead, but now they put an oil derrick up and it ruined the view. And there's just something weirdly funny and sad about that. I like that little touch.
I don't know if I like those touches, but I did notice, of course, I did notice them and acknowledge them as such. They're like, I'm like, this is like a Wes Anderson-y bit thrown in to an otherwise serious movie. Like, I think that maybe messed with my brain while watching it, of like trying to establish what the tone was. I'm like, okay, well, it starts off this pretty like quirky comedy scenario, right? Like that visual of the 4 brothers and the young girl, they're all in cowboy hats. Like, it's pretty funny. I get it. But then the rest of the movie is not very funny. Not that the movie has to be one mode, but I don't know. It just, those elements didn't really connect in a cohesive way for me. But I did appreciate that the movie wasn't so much about the meat as it was about the build up and the afterwards of it.
I do really like that build up, because it gives you a lot of time. And those signifiers of her widowhood are obvious, but I mean they work, I think, because Dickey's really good here. She's quiet a lot. She doesn't have that many lines of dialogue until Wes Studi shows up. It just gives you this time to just contemplate everything that's going on with this character and what could be going on with this character. There is, it's interesting that there is this long period of time where it's a mystery about what's going on. She's waiting to meet somebody, but she's also waiting on a letter, so you don't know if that's the thing.
You don't know if
you
you don't know who she's waiting for, and you don't know if that who is in the form of a letter or if it's going to be a person that shows up.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't know anything.
Like, you don't know what's going on with it. So when Wes Studi shows up, there is this feeling of relief. And yeah, his performance isn't as nuanced and particular as Dale Dickey's, but he is doing his own thing of being, charming and, grieving and all of that in his own way. And I think he's just meant to be there as this sigh of relief. Like, finally somebody is there and talking to her and connecting with her in a way that we haven't seen her connect with anybody else and talk to anybody else. I think it's just
definitely
small and lovely and nice and good performances.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's definitely like, I can't get mad at this movie. It's very inoffensive. It's like either you jive with it and it connects with you in that way and you actually walk away being like, that was really nice and I enjoyed what it did for me, or you walk away going, that was really nice and okay.
There's something else there. That was nice.
That was
okay,
nice.
cool.
That was nice. Look at that weathered face of that woman. No, I just was struck by every review I read mentioning it. I'm like, yes, that's true. And like, that's what I got from it too. But I'm imagining her reading the papers like, enough about my fucking face. Leave me alone. Maybe I'm just joshing. But this is a bonus that we get one more movie to talk about, because this is one that I saw at Sundance. And while the other two I saw at Sundance I rewatched for this episode, I did not do that for this. So I might be a little rusty, but I did like it quite a bit. So I'm hoping that you talking about it will jog my memory and make me remember why I liked it. But here is Lena Dunham's Sharp Stick, the trailer for that.
Who wants to hear their origin story?
Me.
He was an entertainment lawyer, and he had a penis that was wider than it was long, which is called a chode.
Okay, there you have it.
You know what? That was enough, because that really gives the tone of this movie that I really liked and think is very funny. I think any criticism lob at this movie, I would just say, yeah, sure, but wasn't it really funny? Didn't you laugh? But I think that's Lena Dunham is one of the most polarizing figures in TV and film. So I don't think it's universal that people are going to say this movie's funny. I don't think you thought it was very funny, I'm sure. But this is a movie that I and my friends who watched it at Sundance, we all laughed through. And then, yes, it's very thorny. There's like a lot of thorny stuff in here. But I thought it was funny and ultimately sweet. But I am open to Mark's take, and I want to hear what you thought of it. How bold of me to be open, right?
No, that's not it. I like the frankness. I like the openness about sex and all of that. I don't know what's going on with that lead character, though. I found her confounding.
Yeah. Well, have you read in on it a little bit? Because I have some color for you that might help. Which is
I read a little bit about connecting the character to Dunham's own issues.
Yes, there's like that hysterectomy stuff in there for sure. But in terms of like why does this girl at, what is she, 26? Like, why does she 26. Why does she not know anything about sex? And why does she not know what porn is, especially when her mom and her sister are so open about it?
Open and everything.
So the answer to that's some people who really hate this movie. There's plenty of pans, but there's also like some journalism that's been done on this movie. That's like, this character was written as neurodivergent, aka like autistic. And that was completely nixed from the final version. Like, no reference or allusion to the fact that she's autistic, maybe, or whatever you want to say. And that really colors it makes you think about things differently, maybe a little bit, but it also is, again, all these thorny fucking things. Like, your protagonist is this autistic woman having a sexual awakening, like, fine. And like the issue that people have with it, I think, or why it became a controversy, is because the actress, like, in an old interview or something, admitted, like, I studied at this center for autism or whatever to study their behavior, and then all these things, and then all that stuff got dropped. And like, Lena Dunham will say, no, the character is not autistic, and ignore that it was in there. So there's definitely a lot of controversy about the character already.
There is this really big, and that's what I'm saying. I found her confounding because there is this huge disconnect between what we get from her background with the family and that she's 26, that she has a solid job. She is a counselor. She is a caretaker,
live-in babysitter, basically, for a kid with Down syndrome.
For kids with with developmental disabilities. It's, there is this huge disconnect between what we learn of her and what we see of her, and it didn't click. So you have all this frank and open talk about sex and experiences with sex, and it didn't work for me. And yeah, some of it's kind of funny, but I mean, I didn't quite understand what Dunham's trying to get at with any of it, except that, it's okay for women to enjoy sex and to speak up about what they want out of sex. Is like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, I didn't need this very weird avatar character for me to learn that. Yeah,
it felt like, and maybe that explains the character, if that is the background for it. But it does add this, when you don't know what's going on, it does add this level of like discomfort of these, because you have Jay Bernthal who's taking advantage almost then of her.
Yeah, it definitely makes it even thornier than it already was.
Yeah. And it's like, it did not work for me. It felt uncomfortable in a way that it didn't need to be. And I don't know if like making the character younger would have made sense. Like if she's 18 or 19, yeah, maybe. And she's still in college, or didn't go to college.
Like pointedly 26 is very strange.
They make a really firm point. She's 26. She has a good job. Sometimes it seems she lives with her mom and sister, and sometimes it seems like she has her own apartment in the complex that her mother is the landlord of. It seems
they have it seems like it's a confusing property. Yes.
Yeah,
I did catch that as well.
But I mean those are minimal problems.
I feel like that problem or that issue, that the geography of the space is such that they do that so that you can have those like Craigslist sex marathons without anyone knowing. Like that's like the only reason the movie does it.
That's the other thing. Why is she hiding all of this when her mother is very open about everything? I mean, we just had the from the clip that you had, she's open about everything.
Yeah, I love Jennifer Jason Leigh. I mean, maybe that's why
I do too. Yeah,
I love Jennifer Jason Leigh so much. John Bernthal is great in this, and I thought
good. Yeah.
Scott Speedman, who's having a great year, because Crimes of the Future, my favorite movie of the year, obviously David Cronenberg head over here, but Scott Speedman is terrific in that movie and completely different register in this movie as like a lovable, nice porn star. So I definitely agree. It's kind of a confounding experience, and I don't ultimately know what to make of a lot of it. But as like a pure comedy movie, which I'm definitely thinking it is a comedy, Lena has a very strange sense of humor, and I've always enjoyed it. I've always been a fan of her show that was very controversial, but I don't know. I like this movie, enjoyed it as a comedy. Couldn't, again, if I watched it a second time before this, I would have been able to explain what I think it's about. But at this moment, I just am remembering in broad strokes those big moments, and like there's the one joke that sticks out to me is she's making a list of all the sex things she wants to try, and then it's like an ABCs, and the N is necrophilia.
Yeah,
and I thought that was so funny, but like that's such a dark, weird joke that I feel like it's gonna make other people be like, "This movie's fucking weird."
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was funny too, but then it does kind of take you out of, at least for me, it took me out of, this exploration of what.
Like, yes, it makes that montage a little implied, a little darker. Like,
it's funny because she crosses off some of them.
Yeah,
like not that she did them, but that she's like, you know what, I don't really need to do this thing.
Yeah,
but for some reason, that necrophilia one is just still up there unmarked, and you're like, did you not take a note that say like illegal, immoral, just kind of gross in general beyond those? Nope.
Yeah, I don't know what this movie is ultimately about. Maybe like just how the messiness and instability of sex and being young. There's definitely some
young 26.
No, young and full of life at 26, a whole life ahead of her.
I mean, when you start moving up, it does feel that way. Like 26 is, but it's not that. It's not that
I know what you're
and naive
saying.
and
It's tough because I definitely feel like I'm excited to watch it again because I do think there's a good reading of like, okay, Avatar for Lena, right? Like, who is this person? What is this movie about? Because Lena herself puts herself in the movie as like this pregnant woman whose husband cheats on her with the guy. And like, I'm also just interested and fascinated to see Lena put herself in a supporting role, which is something she's never done before. She's always been like front and center. So like, I guess there's a lot of just like outside factors that make me interested in this movie. But the movie itself, I thought was, again, it made me laugh a lot, and I found it very compelling, even if I left feeling, I guess you're right, it does like end with just being like empowering, I guess, for women and sex. But there's definitely more going on that I haven't cracked. But I did like this movie, and I think it's obviously already we're so divided, Mark and I, on this movie.
Yes.
I'm gonna give it 3 to 3.5, three Roger Ebert thumbs out of trademarked out of 4.
I'd give it 1.5 thumbs.
There you go.
Trademark thumbs. Yeah, just
I get it, man. That's a lot of people I know's reaction to that movie. So, let us know. Email us at rogerandmepod@gmail.com. I want to know what you think of any movie. I'm just genuinely curious, but I also want to know. Make suggestions for old episodes to rewatch. You can always email us. I just never mentioned the email before. I wanted to say that. We also have a Patreon page on the Tuesday episodes during the rewatches. We do 1 or 2 of the movies mentioned on the main feed, and then the rest of the movies mentioned we talk about on the Patreon. So there's one from last week already up, including the gem of the week, Hearts of the West, which we talk about on the Patreon, which is the great find. Mark, I hope you'll come back and do a rewatch episode with me.
Oh, yeah.
Watch an old Siskel and Ebert sometime. I will have to get you on the calendar. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Anything to plug besides markreviewsmovies.com?
I also have a Patreon. It's under my name, Mark Dujsik, Dujsik. I'm on Twitter at MarkReviews. Mark Reviews Movies has a Facebook page. Just search that up and you'll find it there. And I think that is it.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark, for being here. And thank you, everybody, for listening or watching Roger and Me. And we'll be back on Tuesday with a rewatch episode featuring special guest and film critic Jordan Hoffman. And I'll make it a surprise. But it's a movie from the 80s. It's an 80s episode. We are going through the different eras of Siskel and Ebert. So we did the 1970s public access era, 1975 episode. Now we're moving on to, I believe, the Tribune era, which starts in the early 80s. So that's where we're at. Find us there on Tuesday. Bye.